Hi, Namaste, Hare Krishna. Welcome to today's video. We're going to be talking about Kambo today, or Kambo, which is Amazonian frog medicine. Isn't that interesting? So we're going to be talking about like what is it, how is it, why is it, all the things. So basically, Kambo is a tree frog from South America, from the Amazons, from the jungle. And it's a green, slimy tree frog. It probably gets about this big or so. I think they're pretty cute. They can kind of look like grumpy old men sometimes in the face. But yeah, they're just these tree frogs that grow in the Amazon. And their skin produces a particular like mucus or kind of like a slime that happens to be poisonous to most animals. But humans have found out over thousands of years that there are many different applications and uses for this like slime from the Kambo frog. So many thousands of years ago, somehow these tribes in the Amazon, they found out through taking or ingesting the Kambo slime in certain ways could have certain effects on the body. But they never, or maybe some people along the way tried to eat the frog, but the way that the Kambo is actually taken into the body is that a shaman or a spiritual practitioner or the Kambo frog, the person that's working with the Kambo frog, they will light a small stick on fire or a twig, and they'll make tiny little burn marks in the skin. And then the shaman will take the Kambo medicine, the slime that's already been collected from the frog. He'll rehydrate it, make it into a sticky slime, and he'll put a little dot on the little holes that he burnt into your skin. And from there, that's actually how Kambo is absorbed into your system. And you can feel it pretty immediately. Like as soon as they put it on there, it's like you can feel it rushing through your veins and through your whole body. It's amazing. So that's kind of like what Kambo is. It's the frog. It's this slimy substance from the frog that is used and has been used for thousands of years by different people for different reasons. So the main things I'll be talking about today are some of its spiritual and like religious implications or applications rather. People in the past and even today into the future, certain tribes in the Amazon will use Kambo as a medicine to purge when people are like bit or stung by like a venomous or a poisonous animal. The Kambo will cause you to purge. So a lot of times to treat poison and things like that, these people will use the Kambo for treatment in that. And also there are other tribes that I've heard that have used Kambo like a vaccine or an immune system booster. And certain people in the West are starting to use it more like that in small doses to kick their immune system into overdrive. There is some very interesting science being done currently on the Kambo frog and its many effects on the immune system. So I know now, as of a couple of years ago, I was hearing that certain folks with HIV, immune compromised systems, and cancer, that they were going through small treatments using the Kambo medicine to push their immune system into overdrive and strengthen it. So I was like, wow, that's really interesting. So Kambo has been used for a lot of different reasons for a long time. Today in the West, it's being used very much like ayahuasca is being used, if you've heard of ayahuasca. That's another plant from South America that's been used, again, for many thousands of years. Humans have been using it, ingesting it, and it causes this huge purge. But along with that purge comes spiritual healing, psychological integration, and the ability to what's the word I want to use? To be able to process and integrate a lot of really traumatic or difficult experiences. And that's the reason I chose to do Kambo. So for many, many years, there was certain things that my subconscious was really racked by, and I had diagnosed major depressive disorder and PTSD, and I've been through a lot, homeless, and seen some awful things. So I was dealing a lot with night terrors, nightmares, little sleep, a lot of really traumatic, intrusive thoughts a lot of the time. This had been going on for a number of years, and I'd gone through, the talk therapy and seeing counselors and seeing therapists and seeing psychologists and even doing my spiritual things like chanting and meditation. And I was just trying at any means possible to try and, integrate, to heal, to get over a lot of the things that I'd been through in my past so I could just move on into the future. And I had heard of things like ayahuasca before. I had met people that were drug addicts, veterans that had seen really horrible things in war, women that have been, abused horribly in physical, sexual, different ways. And similarly, these people had gone through a lot of things like me, where it's like they had these experiences, they had these really, really deep-seated issues that they had worked on through Western medicine and counseling, therapy, all these things, but when it came to certain issues, it was like hitting a brick wall over and over and over after so many years. And when you're dealing with unintegrated trauma and harm and pain, the loss of loved ones, traumatic things that happen to us, those things really take a toll on the human, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, holistically. These things have a huge impact. So I had heard of people going after ayahuasca because they had had these experiences, and finally when they sat with ayahuasca, that they had these huge breakthroughs. It was like finally breaking through that brick wall, on these deep set traumatic issues. And people had these huge realizations, these huge healing, integrative moments. And afterwards it was like this beautiful healing, and people were able to just move on in their life, much lighter, much freer than before. So hearing about ayahuasca, I was almost to the point where I was like, well, let me go do ayahuasca. How can I do it? But in the United States, I don't know if there are groups where they do ayahuasca. I had heard of people always going to South America to do it. I have known a couple of shamans and medical practitioners that would regularly go to Peru, to Ecuador, to Brazil, to different places. And they would work with people that were really addicted to different substances. And they had whole programs helping people using ayahuasca to get through whatever issues they were working on. It was amazing. But I was like, that's so far away. That's going to be so much money, all these things. So eventually, I can't remember exactly how I heard about it, but I came across Kambo, again, the frog medicine. And a lot of people will actually take Kambo as a precursor to ayahuasca, and it's kind of like ayahuasca light, the way some people describe it. I still haven't done ayahuasca, so I can't compare, but in as much as that it causes you to purge very violently, that is very similar. It's not as visual, like psychedelic or anything like that, but you can have kind of somewhat visual experiences, but it's not necessarily like the way that people talk about when they do acid or LSD or ayahuasca, these things where the walls are melting or you're seeing through different dimensions. I never experienced any of that, certainly not. But basically I was to the point where I'd heard about it, I had investigated, I had read about people's experiences and their stories, and again, like I said, I had met a couple of shamans and healers that they had worked with Kambo and ayahuasca, so it's like, you know what, I think this is just something that I need to do and to pursue. And I did find a practitioner in San Diego, that's where I was living at the time, and he was amazing. And I called, I met him, and we set up the first session. And the first time you do Kambo, as far as the way I learned it anyways, and then the tribal traditions and shamanic traditions that my healer worked through his tradition, it's that you, within one moon period, so from one moon phase to another, which is like a month's time, that you would sit with Kambo and do it 3 times. And that's kind of like your first series, kind of like a vaccine, right? And then once you've done your first series of Kambo, in the future you can do just one at a time, but it's recommended that physically and also for spiritual reasons, that the first time you do it, those 3 times within a 1 month period. That's the best way to go about it. So I've heard, so I was told. That's the way I did it. Also, there are something to be aware of. There are a lot of practitioners now, because Kambo is getting so popular, that they're doing Kambo parties or Kambo groups or Kambo collectives. So people will get together in yoga studios or, kind of like holistic hippie kind of like spaces. They'll rent them out and they'll do, 5-10 people at a time will be doing Kambo with 1 or 2 different shamans or healers. And if you can do stuff like that, if that's like to your liking, then I go for it. But I was like, with all the purging with Kambo, with throwing up and all the sweating and the possible purging through the other end, and the crying and processing all this trauma, I was like, I don't want to be around a big group of people while I'm like purging out my guts here. So I just ended up working with my shaman to do one-on-one sessions. And I'm so grateful that I had him and I worked with him, because it was such an intense experience that it was really important beforehand to do like affirmations and prayers and setting intentions. And the first time I did it, I was at his house and we were in front of his altar and everything, which was really nice. And the other 2 times we were at my apartment. And I always made sure it was in front of my altar, and we had like chants or music or incense, candles, lots of auspicious things, crystals, high vibratory things. So you want to have beautiful, lovely, nice things around you that are going to give you strength and give you empowerment and support to be able to get through this really powerful purge experience, right? So the first and second setting that I had with the Kambo wasn't terribly intense. I actually didn't throw up or anything like that. I did get nauseous. I was really shaky. I was kind of like hyperventilating. And I did 4 dots. So when we talked about when the shaman makes the little burns, and then he'll put the little dots of the Kambo medicine. So I did 4 dots the first 2 sessions, and I think my last session I may have done 6 dots, 5 or 6 dots. But the first 2 sessions were kind of like preparing me for the third. And I wonder if that's kind of like why they say you should do three sessions within a moon phase. Because the first one, it was intense, but it wasn't like crazy intense or anything like that. It was mostly just physical shaking and kind of hyperventilating, and I didn't get a lot of the emotional or spiritual release or anything like that. But the third time that I sat with the Kambo, wow, really kicked my butt, man. And it was great. But yeah, so before you take the Kambo, you have to drink a ton of water. So you have an empty stomach, you're not eating anything because this makes you purge. But you do have to drink a ton of water because you're going to be throwing up so much. And you're throwing up so hard that you're not purging from your stomach, you're actually purging bile from like your liver and your gallbladder. So this is a deep purge from like, the roots of your being, like the source of your being, you are purging. So it's really gross. You're going to be purging and throwing up, like yellow and green bile. It's going to be terrible. But at the same time, while you're doing that, and while you're processing, while I was doing that, I felt like the spirit of the frog and like the shaman and like my spirit guides, what have you. It was like I had these visuals, and it wasn't necessarily like I was reliving the traumas per se, but a lot of the things that I set out in my intentions to like get through, to work through, to integrate, to heal, a lot of those like really kind of ugly traumatic things, I saw it and I remembered it, but it wasn't, but I didn't have fear around it. There was no anxiety. There was no tenseness. There was tense, shaking in my body and stuff, but like spiritually, emotionally, mentally, like I was at peace. I wasn't afraid. And it was like the Kambo Frog was like helping me to just process all of these emotions. Like, okay, yep, here are all of these ugly things that were pulling up, kind of like they say if you're looking at the bottom of a pond of this water that hasn't been disturbed for a while, and you stir up all the water, the dirt and the mud and everything that was on the bottom is now pulled up everywhere, and it's like the water's all dirty and everything. So it's like the Kambo, is like pulling up all this mud and all this dirt and everything, which usually would cause distress, right? Because that would manifest through depression, that would manifest through intrusive thoughts, through night terrors, through these different things. But now there was none of that, and I was seeing it, it was there, I was observing it, there was no fear, there was peace, there was integration, and then it was like purging, and you're gone, and it's okay, and it's great. So one of the things that's really beautiful about the Kambo frog is because it is poisonous or venomous. I don't know which one, poisonous? I think snakes are the venomous ones. Anyways, these Kambo frogs, everybody knows in the forest, the snakes, the different kind of like bigger birds and the different predators, they know not to eat the Kambo frog. So there's no natural predators of the Kambo frog. So there's no fear in the Kambo frog. Even when when people go in the forest to find them, to collect like the slime off their back and stuff, the frogs don't have fear. It's not a part of their paradigm or like their understanding. They're very much like the animals like at the Galapagos, I think. They talked about there were no natural predators, so a lot of the animals didn't understand fear of the humans. So I feel like when we take in that Kambo medicine, that we're taking in an element, a dimension of that fearlessness, where it's like, okay, you can see all these scary things that happen, you can see these ugly, unfortunate, or painful, unfortunate things that happen, or even disastrous, really deep things that affect us, but you can see that's from a place of like a warrior, because the Kambo, it has been described as warrior medicine. It just gives you the strength and the empowerment, the support to be able to face whatever shit you've gone through in your life. And it, like I said, it really, in my experience, where I was just hitting brick walls after brick walls, it was like breaking through all of that, and it was like so many realizations, so much integration, so much healing. It was great. So like I said, along with that, there is a lot of physical purging, throwing up, and possible diarrhea and sweating. Your face also swells quite a bit. So this is not some recreational substance to indulge in. It's not a fun drug or anything like that, by no means. It is a very, very powerful medicine, spiritually and physically, a great tool for certain people. Of course, talk to your doctor first, see if you are healthy enough to do these sort of things. Generally, Kambo, ayahuasca, these sort of things are safe, generally, but especially if you have like a heart condition or something like that, it's recommended that you don't do these sort of things. So make sure you talk to your doctor about it. Make sure you find a reputable healer, provider, or shaman to work with, someone that has studied with other shamans that know their stuff. You don't want to work with some charlatan that's charging a whole bunch of money, that doesn't know what they're doing, and if you start having like a bad trip or something, that they're not going to be able to help guide you through that or help you heal through that. So do your homework. If you feel like talk therapy and antidepressants and so many things, you've tried all the different modalities and you feel like you're really at your wit's end and your spirit is tired, because that's what it was for me. My spirit was just tired, and I was like, I've got to do something, because so many of these things that I've been trying are not working like at all. So and like I said, once I did the Kambo, it was like huge realizations, huge healing, really beautiful experience. It's kind of like childbirth, it's like blood and poop and pee and afterbirth, and it's like so ugly, but at the same time it's like, wow, so beautiful. There's like this little life out around like all this gross bodily innards. Kambo, the purge, is very messy, very painful, and like I said, it's not fun at all. But if you surrender yourself to working with the Kambo spirit, with the spirit of the frog and a good practitioner, you'll have the wherewithal and the, what's the word? Like the Determination. Yeah, the resolve and determination. You'll just have made up your mind that you're going to get through this experience because you're worth it, and your healing is worth it. Your integration is worth it. Nobody needs to be caught up in, depression and PTSD, and no one should be held down or back, by the chains of their past traumatic experiences or happenings. That's terrible. So, oh goodness, we're at 20 minutes here. So I think that basically covers it. The Kambo frog is an amazing thing. The spirit of the frog is an amazing, powerful, deeply compassionate, ancient spirit. Very, very interesting to interact with. Very powerful and very loving and soft. It's very interesting because if you make that intention to connect with the spirit of the frog, you will. So much of sacred medicines like ayahuasca, like Kambo, even magic mushrooms, these sort of things, so much of it is in the intention. And when you work powerfully to set your intentions and have these spiritual affirmations and you're determined, it can change your life in ways that you might have not thought possible in a really great way. So, so I'm a big fan of Kambo. I definitely don't recommend it to everyone. It's not for everyone, and not everyone needs it. But for certain people, like I said, if you've been running into brick walls in your spirit, your heart is tired of dealing with so many things, and you feel like you've exhausted all of your options, maybe Kambo would be good for you. Maybe it would work. So I would suggest it's Kambo. I guess you'll be seeing that in the title of the video. But I believe there is a national association of Kambo practitioners these days. I'll do some research, and what I find I'll put in the description box below. But do some research, talk to your doctor about it, talk to a good practitioner or a shaman. If you have the interest, pray about it, see where your heart and your intuition lead you, mind, heart, and gut, make sure those are in alignment. And if they are, give it a go. All right? Okay. Thanks for listening. 22 minutes. Goodness, I need to cut down on these videos. Thanks for listening to me ramble, and happy healing and integration. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.